The sky over Earth had always been vast, endless, and peaceful, or at least it had been peaceful for as long as humans could remember. People looked up at it and saw stars, planets, and the comforting moon that watched over them at night. But on this day, the sky was different. It was no longer just a sky. It had become a warning. Massive shapes appeared in the atmosphere, larger than anything humanity had ever built or imagined. Cities trembled as enormous starships slowly descended, their shadows stretching across continents. Panic spread like wildfire. People ran into streets pointing upward, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. News stations scrambled to report the events, but the images were too shocking to describe in words. At first, the aliens made no sound. They hovered silently as if surveying the planet, waiting for someone to react. And the world did react. Governments held emergency meetings. Scientists and military leaders scrambled to understand the situation. Everyone agreed on one terrifying truth. Earth was no longer alone, and these visitors were not friendly. From these ships, strange figures emerged. They were tall and thin, with shimmering skin that reflected light like polished metal. Their eyes were large, black, and unblinking. They moved in unison, their movements precise, almost mechanical. Their language was strange, a series of clicks and hums that no human could understand. Yet somehow their meaning was clear. They demanded obedience. In Washington, D.C., the President of the United States stood in front of a massive screen, showing the alien emissaries as they spoke. Interpreters struggled to make sense of the alien sounds, but the message became clear. Surrender. Humans. The translator finally said, voice trembling. Surrender your cities. Your weapons are useless. Resistance is unnecessary. The president's face tightened. He looked at his advisors, hoping for a solution. But none came. The aliens had technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Their ships could fire with devastating power. Their shields were nearly impenetrable, and their knowledge of tactics seemed limitless. To most people in that room, it seemed like the end, yet not everyone felt despair. Deep underground, in a secret research facility, a small group of humans were already moving. Scientists, engineers, and military specialists had anticipated the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. They had prepared for the unimaginable, even if most of the world thought such plans were useless fantasies. Dr. Elena Harris, a physicist, stood in the control room, her eyes scanning data on multiple screens. We may not have their technology, she said, voice steady but tense. But they are making assumptions. They believe humans are weak. That is their first mistake. Lieutenant Marcus Shaw, a soldier assigned to protect the facility, frowned. You think we can fight them? Those ships could wipe out a city with a single blast. Elena shook her head. We are not just going to fight them. We are going to outthink them. They may have the firepower, but we have something they don't fully understand. Unpredictability. Outside, in the streets, chaos unfolded. People ran, cars collided, and emergency sirens wailed. But amidst the fear, there were moments of courage. Ordinary citizens, firefighters, police officers, and volunteers tried to protect each other, guiding people to shelters, helping the injured, and offering calm words in the face of terror. Even though they had no idea how to fight these invaders, humanity's instinct to help one another did not disappear. On the outskirts of New York City, a young engineer named Daniel Reyes helped his neighbors barricade their homes. He had no weapons, no training, only tools and a quick mind. Yet he worked tirelessly, reinforcing doors and windows, ensuring children and elderly people were safe. We may be outmatched, he said quietly, but we are not defeated. Not yet. Meanwhile, the aliens began their first tests of power. Their ships hovered above major cities and unleashed pulses of energy. Buildings shook, glass shattered, and fires erupted. Humanity watched in horror as entire streets were leveled in moments. Military forces tried to respond, but their weapons barely scratched the alien shields. Jets and tanks were destroyed within seconds. It seemed hopeless. Yet amid the destruction, a pattern began to emerge. The aliens were precise, almost calculating, but also predictable in certain ways. They avoided areas where humans had set traps or created unexpected defenses. They responded to force in straightforward ways, assuming that humans would act like other species they had conquered. But humans were not like those species. Humans were resourceful, and humans could adapt. In the research facility, Elena and her team watched the alien movements on their monitors. They are arrogant, she said. They think they understand us because they conquered others. But humans are not predictable. That is our advantage. We can learn, we can change, and we can survive in ways they won't expect. Lieutenant Shaw shook his head, a hint of a smile forming. So what's the plan? We can't fight them directly. Not yet. Elena tapped a screen showing maps of alien movements and data from satellites. We observe. We analyze. We find their weaknesses. They are powerful, yes, but no system is perfect. Even the most advanced technology has flaws. And once we find those flaws, we will act. Back in the city, people began to adapt in small ways. They moved in groups, avoided open streets, and used knowledge of the terrain to evade alien patrols. Communication networks became makeshift, using old radios and coded signals. It was not perfect, but it allowed humans to coordinate in ways the aliens did not anticipate. From their massive ships, the aliens watched. They had expected submission. They had expected fear. And in many ways they got it. But they did not expect the cleverness, the stubbornness, and the courage that humans displayed. Every act of resistance, no matter how small, puzzled them. In one city, a group of teenagers discovered that reflective surfaces could temporarily disrupt the alien scanners. Another group found that certain frequencies of sound interfered with the alien communication devices. Small victories, yes, but they mattered. Each discovery, each act of ingenuity, fed the growing belief that humans might not be as weak as the aliens assumed. Daniel Reyes and his neighbors noticed these small changes and shared what they learned with nearby communities. The word spread. Humans could fight back, even if only in small ways. Morale, fragile as it was, began to rise. As night fell, the sky was filled with alien lights and human fires. The contrast could not have been starker. One side had overwhelming power, the other had determination, courage, and the willingness to fight despite the odds. Somewhere in the research facility, Elena and her team worked late into the night, analyzing data, planning, and preparing. Humanity's fight had only just begun. The aliens believed they had already won. They saw humans as simple creatures, easy to conquer, easy to control. But they had not accounted for the most unpredictable variable of all, the human spirit. And in the shadows of the city, as explosions echoed in the distance and alarms screamed, a single thought ran through every human mind who refused to give up. We may be outnumbered. We may be outgunned, but we are not defeated. Not yet. The first day of the invasion ended not with surrender, but with resistance. Humanity had taken its first stand, not through brute force, but through ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to accept defeat. Somewhere, high above the earth, the alien commanders observed this resistance. They exchanged confused signals, their calm confidence starting to waver. They thought humans were predictable. They thought humans were weak, but now they were beginning to see something else. Something that would grow in the days to come, something that would change the outcome of this war. And so, as the sun rose over the battered cities, humanity held its ground. The invasion had begun, but the fight was far from over. In the darkness of fear and chaos, one truth shone brighter than any alien starship. Humans would not go quietly into submission. The war had begun, and humanity was already taking its first steps toward proving that they were far more formidable than anyone, alien or human, had ever imagined. The days following the alien arrival were tense. The sky remained filled with massive ships, their engines humming ominously, casting shadows over cities, forests, and oceans. The invaders had assumed that humanity would surrender quickly, but the humans were proving stubborn more than anyone, even themselves had expected. In New York, Daniel Reyes moved through the damaged streets with his small group of neighbors. Their homes were intact, but the city was no longer familiar. Skyscrapers that once symbolized human achievement now stood as fragile shells under the alien gaze. Fires burned in the distance, smoke curling into the sky. But Daniel's mind was not on the destruction. It was on survival and resistance. Keep your eyes open, Daniel whispered. They can't see everything and they underestimate us. That is our advantage. The group moved quietly, using narrow alleys and broken buildings as cover. They avoided open streets where alien patrols roamed. These patrols were frightening. The aliens were tall, their metal-like skin glinting even in the dim light, their movements smooth and mechanical. They scanned constantly, seeking humans, expecting to find terrified survivors. But what they found instead were humans who refused to run blindly. At the research facility, Dr. Elena Harris and her team had begun to make significant progress. They studied alien ships from afar, gathering data on movement patterns, shield frequencies, and communication signals. Every day brought new discoveries. Every day brought a small victory. "Look at this," Elena said one morning, pointing at a screen. "The aliens' shields fluctuate slightly at regular intervals. It's subtle, but it's there. If we can find a way to exploit it." Lieutenant Marcus Shaw leaned over her shoulder. "You mean we could hit them where it hurts? Even just once?" Elena nodded. "Even once. And once is enough to start building confidence. Once is enough to show the aliens we are not helpless." Confidence was spreading elsewhere too. In London, a team of engineers had rigged old communication satellites to interfere with alien signals. In Tokyo, a small group of volunteers discovered that reflective surfaces, mirrors, and even water disrupted the scanning devices the aliens used to detect movement. Each city found its own ways to fight back, using creativity and teamwork. Humans were learning quickly. Each failed attack by the aliens became a lesson. Each small victory became a spark of hope. And the aliens, who had believed themselves unstoppable, began to notice the problem. "They are clever," one alien commander said, its voice crackling through the translator. "They respond unpredictably. Our patterns do not guarantee success." Back in New York, Daniel and his group found an abandoned building that offered a strategic advantage. From the rooftop, they could see a large alien ship patrolling the streets below. Daniel had no weapons that could harm the ship directly, but he did have a plan. Using mirrors and pieces of broken glass, they created reflections that confused the alien scanners, making it seem as if people were moving where no humans actually existed. The ship paused, rotated, and fired a warning pulse that hit an empty street. "See?" Daniel said with a small smile. "They don't expect this. They don't understand human thinking." His neighbors cheered quietly. Small moments of triumph built morale even amid chaos. And in these moments, humans began to see themselves not as prey but as fighters, as a species capable of surviving against overwhelming odds. Meanwhile, in the skies, alien ships began to adjust their patrol patterns. Their commanders conferred, analyzing human movements, trying to predict their actions. But every adjustment led to new surprises. Humans moved differently, acted differently, and adapted faster than the aliens anticipated. In the underground shelters, ordinary citizens showed extraordinary courage. Families shared food, knowledge, and safe spaces. Communities formed quickly, learning from each other. In one shelter, an elderly woman taught children how to use old radio equipment to communicate with other shelters. In another, a former mechanic converted scrap metal into rudimentary defensive devices. Every contribution mattered. At the research facility, Elena's team also discovered that alien communication relied on a complex frequency system. "If we can jam certain frequencies, we can disrupt their coordination," she explained. "It won't destroy them, but it will create confusion, and confusion is powerful." Lieutenant Shaw nodded. "Confusion can be a weapon too. Humans are adaptable. We can use that." Daniel's group had learned similar lessons in practice. They set small traps for alien patrols, simple obstacles that forced the aliens to slow down or change direction. The aliens were strong, yes, but they were also rigid. They relied on patterns and calculations. Humans, with quick thinking and improvisation, began exploiting that rigidity. One day, Daniel's group noticed a small child separated from his family near a patrol route. The aliens were advancing quickly, unaware of the boy. Without hesitation, Daniel and his neighbors acted. Using mirrors and shadows, they created distractions, drawing the aliens away. They reached the boy, guided him to safety, and reunited him with his family. "That's it," Daniel said afterward. "We're not just surviving. We're protecting what matters, and every time we do, the aliens lose a little more confidence." Indeed, the aliens were beginning to feel the first cracks in their assumed dominance. Their ships fired with precision, their scanners swept relentlessly, yet humans continued to evade, adapt, and sometimes even strike back. Small victories accumulated into a growing problem. Humans were not predictable, and unpredictability was something the aliens had not accounted for. Back at the research facility, Elena reviewed new data. They are learning. Every encounter teaches them something new. That is the most dangerous thing for the aliens. They have power, but we have evolution. Every day, humans become stronger in ways they cannot measure. Outside, humanity's ingenuity was on full display. Teams used tunnels, rooftops, and hidden passageways to move undetected. They sent false signals, used decoys, and coordinated attacks that confused the aliens. They learned to read alien patterns, to anticipate responses, and to use the environment to their advantage. It was not brute force, it was intelligence, creativity, and courage. Even in despair, humans found hope. Stories spread of people saving others, of engineers rigging devices to delay alien attacks, of communities holding together under pressure. Every act of courage inspired another. Every small victory became a symbol of resilience. Daniel's group watched one alien patrol retreat after being trapped in a confusing maze of mirrors and shadows. He looked at his neighbors, their faces lit with relief and pride. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We are not powerless. We are learning, and soon we will show them just how strong we can be." And the aliens, observing these repeated setbacks, began to whisper among themselves. "These humans, they are not like the others. They are different. They adapt. They do not follow patterns. They fight back when we thought they would surrender." For the first time, the aliens faced a problem they could not easily solve. Their overconfidence, their assumption that all species could be subdued like those before, was being challenged by the very thing they had underestimated, the human spirit. At night, in shelters, homes, and underground facilities across the world, humans prepared for what was coming next. They did not know what the future held, but they knew one thing: they were not defeated. They had found strength in one another, cleverness in the tools they had, and courage where fear might have taken hold. As the sun set on a battered city, Daniel stood atop a building, looking toward the alien ships hovering silently above. He clenched his fists. They thought this would be easy. They thought we would give up. But they are wrong. We will fight. We will survive. And we will win, not because we are the strongest, but because we are human. Somewhere in the alien fleet, commanders watched, their confusion growing. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would have consequences they could not yet predict. Humans, they realized, were not predictable. They were not weak. And in every act of resistance, the aliens saw the truth they had ignored for too long. The human spirit was unbreakable. The battle had only begun, but the humans had already shown that they were more than mere survivors. They were thinkers, innovators, and fighters. And as long as they could adapt, as long as they could work together, they would never be defeated. Humanity had discovered its hidden strength. And the aliens, for the first time, understood that this would not be an easy conquest. Days had passed since the alien ships had arrived, and humanity's fight had begun in earnest. Small victories and clever tricks had kept the aliens from fully conquering Earth. But the situation was growing more dangerous. The invaders had begun to adjust their tactics, striking harder and faster. Entire cities were at risk, and even the cleverest humans could not anticipate every attack. In New York, Daniel Reyes and his group moved cautiously through the ruins of the city. Streets that had once been familiar were now obstacles filled with debris and danger. Fires still smoldered, and the distant sounds of alien weapons firing echoed through the night. Every step they took required careful planning, and every corner could hide a patrol or a surprise. "This is getting worse," whispered Maria, one of Daniel's neighbors. She scanned the streets with wide eyes. "They're learning. They're adapting too." Daniel nodded. "Yes, they are powerful, but they're not perfect. We just need to find the right opening." Meanwhile, at the underground research facility, Dr. Elena Harris and her team were working tirelessly. They had analyzed hundreds of hours of alien movement patterns, shield frequencies, and communication protocols. The team had made small discoveries, but now the pressure was higher than ever. "The aliens are becoming more aggressive," Lieutenant Marcus Shaw said as he reviewed the latest data. "Their strikes are bigger, their patrols are faster. We're running out of time." Elena's eyes narrowed as she studied the latest scans. "I know, but I think we've found something, a flaw. It's subtle, but it exists." "What kind of flaw?" Marcus asked, leaning in. "It's in their navigation system," Elena explained. "It's not a weapon flaw. It's not a shield flaw. But their coordination depends on a signal that has a timing pattern. If we can disrupt it, even briefly, it could create chaos in their ranks." The room fell silent. Every member of the team understood the risk. Attempting to exploit the flaw would be dangerous, and failure could mean death. But this was also humanity's best chance to shift the balance. Outside, human communities continued to resist in small ways. In Tokyo, Engineers rigged old communication towers to send false signals to alien scanners. In London, citizens used creative decoys and mirrored surfaces to confuse patrols. These efforts were not enough to defeat the aliens outright, but they caused disruption and gave hope. Daniel and his group had their own small victories. They had learned to anticipate alien patrols, to set traps using debris, and to move silently through the city. Yet despite these successes, the aliens were striking more frequently, destroying entire blocks and forcing humans to adapt quickly or perish. One day, while scouting a damaged part of the city, Daniel noticed a group of humans trapped in a collapsed building. Alien patrols were nearby, moving with precision, scanning for survivors. Without hesitation, Daniel and his neighbors acted. Using shadows, debris, and clever distractions, they guided the humans to safety. The aliens fired at decoys in empty streets, confused by the unexpected movements. "That's it," Daniel said, catching his breath. "Every time we do something they don't expect, we weaken them. That is our advantage." Meanwhile, Elena's team had begun to experiment with the discovered flaw. Using modified communication devices, they attempted to send signals that could interfere with the aliens' timing pattern. At first, the results were small, slight delays and occasional confusion, but it was enough to prove the concept. "This is it," Elena said. "If we can amplify this effect, we could create a real opportunity. But we need someone to act in the field, someone brave enough to take the risk." Marcus looked at her, frowning. "You mean we need to send a team directly into the alien-controlled zone? That's almost certain death." Elena shook her head. "Not if they don't know what to expect. We use unpredictability, just like we've been doing. And we have to act now, before the aliens adapt further." Back in New York, Daniel and his group continued to survive, but the pressure was mounting. Alien patrols were becoming faster and more aggressive. Entire neighborhoods were being destroyed, forcing people to flee underground or into hidden shelters. Fear was growing, but so was determination. Humans were learning to endure, to adapt, and to find courage they did not know they had. One night, Daniel noticed a small alien ship hovering unusually low. It scanned the streets carefully, moving slowly. Daniel realized that this was a patrol looking for a specific target, likely humans who had been too clever for the aliens to ignore. He gathered his neighbors. "We have to act smart," he whispered. "We can't fight it directly, but we can mislead it, slow it down, and give people a chance to escape." Using broken cars, debris, and reflective surfaces, they created illusions that made the patrol think humans were in one area when they were elsewhere. The ship fired at the decoys, its energy blasts destroying empty streets. The humans moved quietly through alleys, reaching safety. "This is what we need to do," Daniel said afterward. "We can't match them in strength, but we can match them in cleverness. And cleverness can win." At the research facility, Elena made a decision. The team had enough data to try the plan in the field. They would send a small, skilled team to create a disruption in the alien network, exploiting the flaw in their timing pattern. It was risky and many might not survive, but it was humanity's first chance to take the initiative. "We don't know exactly what will happen," Elena said to Marcus and a few trusted scientists. "But we have to try. Humanity cannot wait for the aliens to destroy us. We must act." The team prepared their equipment carefully. Improvised devices were calibrated to send precise signals, using ingenuity rather than power. Every detail mattered. The smallest mistake could mean failure or worse. Daniel and his neighbors, hearing about the plan through trusted communication channels, volunteered to help. They had experience moving through alien-controlled areas, avoiding patrols and setting traps. They were ordinary humans, yes, but ordinary humans who had learned extraordinary skills under extraordinary circumstances. The night of the operation arrived. Daniel, Elena, Marcus, and a small group moved through the city, avoiding alien patrols with care and precision. The tension was high. Every shadow could hide danger. Every step could be the last. Yet, each human moved with courage, relying on instinct, training, and teamwork. When they reached the target area, a network hub controlling alien patrol coordination, Elena set up the device while the others kept watch. The plan was simple but dangerous. Disrupt the alien timing signals long enough to create confusion, allowing humans in other areas to escape or resist more effectively. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she activated the device. A pulse of energy sent signals into the alien network. At first, nothing happened. Then alarms sounded on alien ships. Their movements became erratic. Patrols turned back and forth, scanning streets in confusion. Communication between ships faltered. "Yes," Marcus shouted. "It's working." Daniel's group moved quickly, guiding nearby humans to safety while alien patrols stumbled blindly, unsure of what had caused the disruption. Chaos reigned in the streets, but it was a controlled chaos. Humans used it to their advantage. For the first time, humans felt the thrill of taking the initiative. They were not merely surviving. They were challenging the aliens. They were forcing the invaders to adapt to them instead of the other way around. As dawn approached, the effects of the disruption began to fade. Alien systems slowly recovered, but the humans had already gained crucial ground. People escaped dangerous areas, regrouped, and strengthened defenses. Small victories accumulated, boosting morale across cities and shelters. Elena looked at the team, exhausted but triumphant. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We've shown them we can strike back, and we will continue to strike in ways they cannot predict." Daniel, watching the city wake from a tense night, felt a surge of hope. Humanity had survived the worst of the attack so far, but more challenges were ahead. Yet they had learned a vital truth. Humans were clever, adaptable, and courageous. Those qualities could overcome even the greatest technological advantage. Somewhere in the alien fleet, commanders exchanged urgent signals. "These humans are unpredictable," one said. "They are not like any other species we have encountered. We cannot anticipate their actions." The invaders, who had believed victory was already assured, now faced doubt for the first time. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would change everything. The turning point had arrived. Humans had discovered a critical weakness, exploited it with ingenuity, and survived against overwhelming odds. And they had learned something more important than any technology. Courage, intelligence, and teamwork were weapons the aliens could never fully predict or control. As sunlight bathed the battered city, Daniel, Elena, Marcus, and their team prepared for the next stage. The fight was far from over, but humanity had taken the first decisive step toward showing the invaders that Earth was not a prize to be claimed without struggle. The aliens had assumed they were unstoppable, but the humans had proven otherwise. The city was still scarred from days of alien attacks. Buildings lay in ruins, streets were littered with debris, and fires smoldered in abandoned neighborhoods. Yet amid the destruction, humans moved with determination, refusing to surrender. Every challenge, every setback had taught them something new. And now they were ready to take a bold step forward. Daniel Reyes led his small team through the streets of New York. The city was quiet in some areas, but shadows hid dangers. Alien patrols were still everywhere, moving silently, scanning for humans with precise and deadly intent. Daniel's group had learned to move like ghosts, silent, careful, and unpredictable. They relied on instincts honed by days of survival, using every alley, rooftop, and hidden passage to avoid detection. "Stay close," Daniel whispered to his neighbors. "We're not just surviving anymore. We're going to take the fight to them, but we have to be smart." Nearby, the research facility buzzed with activity. Dr. Elena Harris and Lieutenant Marcus Shaw coordinated the next phase of the plan. Their discovery of the alien flaw had given humans an edge, but exploiting it fully required precise timing and courage. Elena reviewed the maps on her screen. "We need a distraction," she said. "Something big enough to pull their attention away from the main hub. If we can do that, Daniel's team can infiltrate the control center and strike where it hurts most." Marcus frowned. "It's dangerous. One mistake and the aliens could wipe out the entire team." Elena shook her head. "We don't have a choice. This is humanity's chance to show them we're not powerless. We have intelligence, creativity, and courage. Those are weapons they cannot predict or control." Daniel's group prepared for the mission with meticulous care. They carried improvised tools, communication devices, and supplies for survival. Every member understood the stakes. Failure could mean death, but success could shift the balance of power. As night fell, the city transformed into a battlefield of strategy and cunning. Humans moved through shadows, setting decoys and traps for alien patrols. Fires were ignited in controlled areas to create distractions. Sounds were amplified through hidden devices to mislead the invaders. The goal was simple: confusion. And confusion could be as powerful as any weapon. High above, alien ships responded to the chaos. Patrols moved erratically. Shields flashed and energy pulses scanned the streets below. The invaders had strength and technology, but humans had something they could not calculate: unpredictability. Every move Daniel's team made was designed to confuse, mislead, and exploit that weakness. In one district, a small group of volunteers guided civilians to safe zones using hidden tunnels. Children clutched their parents' hands, terrified but trusting the humans leading them. Daniel's team coordinated with them remotely, ensuring that every step was synchronized. Every act, no matter how small, contributed to the larger plan. Finally, the moment arrived. Daniel's team approached the alien control hub, a heavily guarded facility deep within the city. The alien technology hummed and glowed, and patrols moved in precise patterns around it. But the humans were ready. Using the chaos created in other parts of the city, they moved silently and quickly, avoiding detection. Elena monitored their progress from the research facility. "They're almost there," she said, voice tense. "Keep the distractions going. Don't let the aliens regain control." The team reached the hub's outer perimeter. Daniel signaled to his neighbors. "This is it. We move fast, we move smart, and we stay together. Everyone knows their role." Inside the hub, the aliens operated their systems with confidence. They believed humans were still weak, still predictable. But as Daniel's team infiltrated the facility, that belief began to crumble. Humans moved like shadows, evading patrols, disabling sensors, and navigating corridors that seemed impossible to traverse. Every step was careful, every decision crucial. Daniel reached the central control room. He glanced at his neighbors. "Remember precision and speed. We don't have much time." Elena's device, designed to exploit the alien timing flaw, began to pulse. Signals disrupted the alien network, causing delays and confusion in communications. Lights flickered, alarms sounded erratically, and patrols hesitated. The aliens could not understand what was happening. Their systems were failing, not from power but from unpredictability, something no machine could fully counter. Daniel and his team set to work. They used improvised tools to hack alien consoles, exploiting the flaw discovered by Elena. The screens flickered, systems failed, and alarms sounded in wild patterns. Alien officers rushed to contain the chaos, but it was too late. The humans had struck at the heart of their control network. Outside, the effects were immediate. Alien patrols faltered, unsure of where to move. Ships hovered, shields flashing as energy pulses misfired. Humans in nearby streets seized the opportunity, escaping dangerous zones and coordinating attacks with newfound confidence. Daniel's neighbor, Maria, looked around in amazement. "They didn't see this coming," she said. "They thought we were weak, but we're stronger than they imagined." The team worked tirelessly, moving from console to console, shutting down systems and creating further disruption. Every step they took weakened the aliens' hold over the city. The invaders had assumed victory, but they had underestimated the ingenuity, courage, and determination of humans. Hours passed, and the hub's systems were nearly offline. Daniel and his team had not just survived, they had turned the tide. They had proven that humans could strike where the aliens least expected, using intelligence, creativity, and bold action. Elena monitored the results with relief. "They've done it," she said softly. "They've shown the aliens what humanity can do." As dawn approached, the city remained a battlefield, but now it was a battlefield of hope. Humans moved with purpose, guided by strategy and courage. Alien patrols were cautious, slower, and uncertain. The element of surprise had shifted. The aliens no longer had complete control. Daniel stood on a rooftop, looking at the hub where his team had made their strike. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of what they had achieved. "We are not just surviving," he said quietly. "We are fighting back. And we will continue to fight until every alien knows that Earth belongs to humans." Across the city, civilians and volunteers celebrated small victories. Fires that had been used for distractions were now extinguished. People emerged from shelters ready to rebuild, regroup, and continue resisting. Every act of bravery inspired another. Every act of cleverness created momentum. The aliens, observing the chaos from their ships, were beginning to understand that humans were not like other species they had conquered. Their arrogance, their assumption that all life could be subdued through technology and strength, was being challenged. Humans had shown them something they could not calculate: adaptability, creativity, and the courage to act against overwhelming odds. Lieutenant Marcus Shaw, watching from the research facility, spoke to Elena. "They underestimated us. They thought they could crush us with fear. But they didn't count on what humans can do when they refuse to give up. Elena nodded. Exactly. They may have technology, but we have something far more powerful, the human spirit. Every act of courage, every clever solution, every small victory, it all adds up. That is what makes humans unstoppable. In the heart of the city, Daniel and his team prepared for the next challenge. The hub they had infiltrated was only one part of the alien network. More ships, more patrols, and more control systems awaited. But now humanity had demonstrated its potential. They had taken the first bold step forward, showing the aliens that Earth was not an easy conquest. As the sun rose, casting light on a city scarred but unbroken, Daniel looked toward the sky. Alien ships still hovered, still powerful, still threatening. But humans had learned something important. Courage, ingenuity, and teamwork could challenge even the most formidable foe. The next phase of the battle would be harder. The aliens would adapt. They would respond. But humans had discovered a truth that no technology could erase. When a human takes a step forward, nothing, not fear, not power, not even the stars themselves, can hold them back. And so humanity's fight continued. Each step forward was a statement, a declaration that Earth was theirs to defend, and that no invader, no matter how advanced, could take it without a struggle. The war was far from over, but humanity had begun to shine, proving that the human spirit, intelligence, and courage were forces even the greatest alien power could not fully predict or defeat. The sky over Earth was filled with tension. Alien ships hovered above major cities, their presence a constant reminder of the danger humans faced. Yet humanity had grown stronger, more resilient, and far more clever than the invaders had expected. Every small victory, every clever trap, every act of courage had built toward this moment. Daniel Reyes stood with his team on the rooftop of a partially destroyed skyscraper in New York. They had survived countless patrols, fires, and collapsing buildings. But tonight was different. Tonight, they were going to strike at the heart of the alien command center, the hub that coordinated the ship's patrols and weapons. If they succeeded, it could turn the entire war in humanity's favor. We've done the impossible before, Daniel said quietly to his neighbors. Tonight we do it again. Stay sharp, trust each other, and remember why we fight. Not for fear, not for revenge, but for our home. Elena Harris monitored the situation from the underground facility. Her hands moved quickly over her keyboard, sending guidance and support to Daniel's team. Lieutenant Marcus Shaw coordinated small groups across the city, creating distractions, false signals, and traps. The plan was risky, but humanity had no other choice. High above, alien ships moved with precision, unaware that their coordination had already begun to fail. The humans' previous strikes had caused confusion, and their unpredictable tactics had created gaps in the alien defenses. This was humanity's chance to push forward. Daniel's team moved through the shadows using rooftops, hidden stairways, and tunnels to approach the command hub. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. Alien patrols moved slowly below, their sensors scanning for life. But humans had learned to think like shadows, to move like whispers, and to strike where least expected. As they reached the hub's perimeter, Daniel signaled the team to pause. The structure was massive, more advanced than anything humans had seen before. Lights glowed with an otherworldly hue. Energy pulsed through the walls, and alien officers moved with mechanical precision. It was intimidating. "We can do this," Daniel whispered. "Focus, move fast, and use everything we've learned." The team infiltrated the hub quietly. They avoided patrols, bypassed security systems, and navigated corridors that seemed impossible to traverse. Inside, they found the central command room. Alien consoles hummed with energy, displaying maps, signals, and information that humans could barely comprehend. Elena's device, designed to exploit the alien timing flaw, began to pulse. The signals disrupted alien communications, creating chaos in the hub. Lights flickered, alarms sounded randomly, and patrols became uncertain. The aliens, confident in their control, now faced an enemy they could not predict. Daniel and his team moved quickly, shutting down consoles, rerouting systems, and sending false information to the alien network. Every action caused further confusion, making it difficult for the invaders to respond. Outside, the city was alive with human resistance. Citizens emerged from hiding places, taking advantage of the chaos. Fires that had been used as distractions now became signals, guiding humans to safe zones. Small groups of fighters moved with purpose, sabotaging alien patrols and reclaiming streets that had been lost. Maria, one of Daniel's neighbors, guided civilians through a narrow alley as alien patrols faltered. "Keep moving," she shouted. "Follow me, stay close, and trust your instincts." The humans' courage inspired more courage. Every act of bravery encouraged another. Every clever trick encouraged another. Even those who had been too afraid to fight before found hope in the actions of ordinary people, performing extraordinary feats. Inside the hub, Daniel reached the main console. He glanced at his neighbors. "This is it," he said. "We shut down the network and we show them what humans can do." The team worked together, coordinating their efforts with precision. They bypassed alien security protocols, rerouted energy flows, and created a system-wide disruption. Alien officers rushed to contain the chaos, but it was too late. Humans had struck at the heart of the alien command network, and the effects were immediate. Ships above faltered. Patrols on the street stopped mid-motion. Energy shields flickered. Communications failed. The invaders, who had once believed Earth would fall easily, were now disoriented and vulnerable. Daniel's team emerged from the hub just as chaos erupted outside. They saw humans moving with purpose, taking back streets and reclaiming buildings. The energy of resistance combined with strategy and courage was unstoppable. Elena watched the events unfold on her screens, relief washing over her. "They've done it," she said. "Humanity is showing them that we are not to be underestimated. We've proven it once, and now it's happening across the city. Even the aliens could not ignore the evidence." Their ships, once symbols of unstoppable power, now hovered uncertainly. Officers communicated frantically, trying to restore control, but human ingenuity and bravery had outpaced their ability to react. Daniel and his team moved to higher ground, overlooking the city. The sun was rising, casting light over streets that had once been shadows of despair. Fires burned, smoke rose, and rubble lay scattered, but humans stood tall. Ordinary people had achieved extraordinary things. "We did it," Maria said, voice filled with awe. "We really did it," Daniel shook his head. "This is just the beginning. They will adapt and we will face new challenges. But today we've shown them something they cannot calculate. We've shown them the human spirit." Across the world, similar stories unfolded. Humans in Tokyo, London, Paris, and other cities used the chaos to strike back, reclaiming territory and protecting civilians. Engineers, volunteers, and fighters worked together, turning survival into resistance. Every city that fought back added to the growing realization that Earth could not be easily conquered. The aliens, observing the global resistance, understood a hard truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not predictable. They adapted, they learned, and they acted with courage and intelligence. The species they had assumed would fall without effort was now challenging them at every turn. High above the city, a lone alien commander looked down. "They are remarkable," it said quietly through the translator. "We underestimated them. We misjudged their strength. They are different. They are dangerous." Daniel watched the alien ships, his eyes filled with determination. "They may have power," he said to his team. "But we have something more. Courage, creativity, and the refusal to give up. That is what makes humans unstoppable." As the day progressed, humans consolidated their gains. Streets were cleared. Injured civilians were helped to safe zones and communications were restored. Small groups of fighters coordinated with others, creating networks of resistance that were resilient and adaptive. Every act of bravery and intelligence became part of a larger movement, a movement that no alien could fully control. In the center of the city, Daniel took a step forward, symbolically placing one foot closer to the alien command hub. Around him, humans rallied. Children watched from safe areas, inspired by the courage of those who led the fight. Families reunited and communities strengthened. Humanity's spirit was unbroken, shining brighter than the fires that had once threatened to consume them. The alien commanders, realizing the full scope of humanity's resilience, finally understood their mistake. They had assumed technology and power alone could conquer the human race. They had underestimated the combination of intelligence, creativity, and courage, the qualities that made humans extraordinary. Daniel looked around at his team and neighbors. "Today we've shown them that humans are not just survivors," he said. "We are fighters, thinkers, and protectors. This is our home and we will defend it." No one will take it without a fight. Elena and Marcus watched from the research facility. They've done more than survive, Elena said softly. They've inspired hope. They've shown what humanity can achieve when united. This is the true strength of our species. As the sun rose fully over the city, the alien ships began to retreat. Not completely, but cautiously. Aware now of the humans' unpredictable power, humanity had survived the worst of the invasion, and the first decisive victories had been achieved. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer certain. Every human who had stood, fought, and protected others had made a difference. Courage had triumphed over fear. Ingenuity had triumphed over brute force. And humanity, against all odds, had proven that they could face even the greatest challenges and prevail. Daniel stood on the rooftop looking at the horizon. Alien ships still hovered, but the fear that had gripped humanity was gone. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. And they knew that no matter what came next, humans would continue to take steps forward one after another, until Earth was safe once more. The human spirit had triumphed. The aliens had learned the hard truth. Underestimating humans was a mistake that could not be repeated. And as Daniel took another step forward, he knew that humanity's courage, intelligence, and resilience would continue to shine, lighting the way for all who defended their home. The invaders had believed they would win without struggle. But humanity had proven them wrong, not with weapons alone, but with the greatest power of all, the human spirit. Earth belonged to humans, and they would fight to protect it, today, tomorrow, and for every day that followed.